Oh boy, Limbus Company is halfway through its second season, and as a gacha game, it's only natural that it's releasing character identities by the dozen. But with so many identities being added, sometimes it's hard to decide what you should get with the few shards at your disposal, especially if you're a new player or just unlucky. Couldn't possibly be me. And that's why I'm here. Welcome to the Limbus Company ID Rundown, where I'll be going over all the released identities by season and explaining them before slapping them into my personal tier list, which is of course objectively correct. I don't want to hear any complaints in the comments. Also, I totally didn't steal this video format from NickyBoi. That would be ridiculous. I'm not going to explain what sin affinities, upties, clash weights, or damage types are, so go watch my actual review of the game or just play it to find out. There's a lot of IDs to go over, and I've got meth to cook. I don't have time to explain base mechanics. So, whether you're a new player deciding what to craft, or a veteran deciding what to uptie, I hope you enjoy the ID rundown, starting with the identities that were released at the very beginning. The launch of Limbus Company. Yi Sang, 7 Association, South Section 6, from here on out abbreviated as SAS, because damn he got some! Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Gloom, Gluttony, Sloth. Damage types, Pierce and Blunt. Gimmicks, Fragile, Paralyze, Rupture, being the internet's favorite. Oh boy, what a start. The SAS identities are well renowned for being pretty solid overall, just not amazing. And this one definitely fits that description. He's fast, his passives make clashing easier, and his affinities power one of his best egos, Dimension Shredder. Combine that with the fact he inflicts Pierce fragility, and you can set up some nasty damage. But at the same time, he has low to average clashing power, deals very little damage with his basic skills, and is definitely a bottom, so it all kind of averages out. Altogether, a solid 2-star identity that I'm gonna throw into A. It can beat out some 3-star identities, but it's also not the best. Definitely give it a shot if you've got it laying around. Faust, Lobotomy Corp Remnant. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Lust, Gloom, Envy. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Poise, Rupture, I'll never eat apples again because I miss Yuri. If you asked what I thought of this identity before Uptie 4 was a thing, I would have said, "Oh!" But now? That would be a horrific mistake, because this ID got buffed through the fucking roof. Amazing clash values and reliable damage with frequent crits make this identity absurdly good. But better yet, it creates the exact affinities needed to power Fluid Sac, one of, if not the best ego in the game right now. She doesn't have much besides incredible clashing and damage, and her passives are fine. But even that makes her an instant S-tier identity, and probably the absolute best 2-star identity in the game. Just make sure you uptie her to 4. But while we're on the subject of this particular white-haired genius... Faust, W Corp Cleanup Agent. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Envy, Gloom, Wrath. Damage types, Blunt. Gimmicks, Bind, Paralyze, Charge. Who would have thought? I don't know why Faust IDs seem to perform so well, but this is also an excellent identity, especially for 2 stars again. She is shockingly tanky, able to take a ton of hits, and her debuffs are absolutely fantastic. Everything she does makes it easier to clash, and her passives work great for charge teams. But she doesn't do great damage, and even worse, she is so slow. Like DMV slow. Like college professor grading finals slow. Her speed range is 2 to 4. Her bind definitely helps, but good luck getting her to ever intercept an attack. But I have to admit, even though that's annoying, she still goes into A tier. She's incredibly good at clashing and helps enable the better charge identities. Overall, still great. Don Quixote. She Association, South Section 5 Director. From here on out, abbreviated as... Wait, no, that's also SAS. Fuck. Okay, well, we'll just abbreviate this one as S5 instead. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Wrath, Envy, Lust. Damage types, Slash. Gimmicks, Poise, Haste, sick fucking splash art. Ah, the Gremlin's first identity, and it's meh. S5 Dawn is absolutely banging when it comes to clashes, but relies on hitting heads since she has low coin counts. She also doesn't do much damage, and maybe the worst part is none of her skills synergize with her egos. At least, not the good ones. I'll be honest, it's a great clashing ID, but the fact it's basically lacking everything else makes me toss it right into the B tier. Don't worry, Dawn's not lacking good identities. Ryoshu, SAS. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Sloth, Pride, Gluttony. Damage types, Blunt and Slash. Gimmicks, Rupture / Fragility. How did this psycho get into the Undercover Association? Probably the best SAS identity overall, she has some solid clashing values and does some good damage. But the reason she's so good is the fact that you can apply 5 / Fragility with her skill 3. But that's all it does. And you better believe she doesn't synergize with her egos at all, besides soda! And that's pierce damage. It's great for nuking a single opponent, but the ID is lacking overall. I'll put this one into A tier as well, and it just barely beats out Yi Sang's. Meursault, Leo Association, South Section 6, aka Lass. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Lust, Sloth, Wrath. Damage types, Blunt and Pierce. Gimmicks, Burn, 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 and Burn. This identity does a single thing. Apply Burn. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a lot of other things, like win clashes or deal damage. I'm sorry, this identity sucks. It has no clash power, deals practically no damage, and has mediocre passives with low speed. I'm gonna keep this one quick because this doesn't need much explanation. D tier. I'm so sorry, Meursault. You got robbed. Honglu, Kurakumo Clan Wakashu. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Lust, Pride, Sloth. Damage types, Slash. Gimmicks, I see a small apartment. I see you, alone, and a lot of bleed. Jesus, that's a lot of bleed. A Kurakumo identity that's mono slash damage and inflicts bleed? Daring today, aren't we? In all seriousness, this identity is really solid. It inflicts a ton of bleed with basically no bleed count, which may sound counterintuitive, but it's for a good reason. Lu's skill 2, Cloud Cutter, reuses both of its coins if the target has less than 4 bleed count. This gives him anti-synergy with other bleed identities, who love stacking up that count. Luckily, he doesn't need a team to support him. Kurakumo Lu has insane damage output, and is decent at clashing, though not great. Unfortunately, this is another identity that doesn't support its egos, but it's going into A regardless. It's just really solid overall. Heathcliff, S5. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Lust, Wrath, Envy. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Poise. Come on, I want you to do it. Come on, hit me! Hit me! This idea is all about taking damage and being on low health. Every skill gets stronger at half HP, and his passive and skill 3 improve damage even further if Heathcliff has already taken damage this turn. If you can actually manage to keep him below half health, this identity hits pretty hard, but if not, he's pretty lackluster. He's not bad, it's just that he requires a specific setup to be really good, and even mediocre identities can outperform him using the many turns it takes to whittle down his HP. C tier. Maybe a self-damage ID will pop up eventually and make this one broken, but it'll take some time to work. Ishmael, LCCB Assistant Manager. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Gluttony, Gloom, Pride. Damage types, Blunt. Gimmicks, Aggro, Ammo, Fragile, Paralyze, Rupture, Trimmer, Attack Down, and the Kitchen Sink for good measure. What an ID! She's got a ton of ammo to work with, and her skills apply every status under the sun. Solid passives, tanky stats, and a skill 3 that bursts Trimmer even without ammo makes her a must-run in Trimmer and Rupture teams. She's pretty good at clashing too, and does alright damage even without her 10,000 statuses. Too bad she really can't use her Fragile since she's so slow. But even so, she makes it into S tier for being one of the best support IDs in the game, and is an absolute requirement for some teams. Ishmael, S5. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Envy, Lust, Wrath. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Poise. Replay that Joker clip from earlier. Another identity that likes low health. The difference is that this one can actually perform while it's above half HP. Don't get me wrong, it'll do great when it's actually low, but S5-ish actually hits pretty hard on her own, and her crits are decently reliable as well. I don't think that it holds a candle to LCCB, but it'll do. B tier, because it's still better than poor ol' Heathcliff. Rodion, LCCB Assistant Manager. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Pride, Gluttony, Envy. Damage types, Blunt. Gimmicks, Paralyze, Defense Down. Holy shit, this ID is boring. LCCB Rodion is all about dealing bonus damage if an opponent defends. That's it. That's both her passives, and her main skills deal more damage if there's other blunt attacks. Fucking yawn. No damage, bad clashes, average speed. This might be the least interesting ID so far. She's not terrible, she just doesn't do anything interesting or even well. Straight into the C tier with you. Now stay there and think about what you've done. Sinclair, Zwei Association South Section 6, Z6 for short. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Gloom, Wrath, Sloth. Damage types, Blunt. Gimmicks, Aggro, Trimmer, Protection. I will be your shield. This identity is tanky and loves Trimmer, but you really shouldn't run it on Trimmer teams because Ishmael does that better in every way. Zwei Sinclair doesn't win clashes and sure as hell doesn't deal any damage. He can tank a lot, but he's really just lacking everything else. His Trimmer isn't even that good. C tier. There's not much more to be said here, unfortunately. Sinclair, Los Mariachis Jefe. Sinclair. Los Mariachis Sinclair. Los Mariachis Jefe. I sure hope I'm not butchering all these names. I'm not very good at other languages. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Sloth, Envy, Gloom. Damage types, Blunt. Gimmicks, Poise, Sinking, sick maraca skills. I have no clue what the fuck is happening with this identity. Everything about it seems to be conflicting. The only payoff for both the sinking he inflicts and the poise he gets is his skill 3, which gets some good damage. He's tanky, but he doesn't have any aggro in his kit, and when I looked up what people thought online, some had him at the lowest tier and some had him shockingly high. Nothing seems to mesh together in this kit, and yet he really performed well when I tried him out. He's like the Twilight Zone of Limbus identities. I'll put him at C tier. Even though I think he's decent, there's just no synergy here, and other IDs offer a lot more. Udis, Blade Lineage Cutthroat. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Wrath, Lust, Pride. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Poise, but never being able to use it. Yes, so this identity is pretty bad. She wants to stack Poise but can't raise that count easily, and her passives deal more damage to low health enemies. But you don't need that. It would be way more helpful to deal damage to enemies at higher health. Usually they pop way too fast to effectively use her passives. She's an okay clasher, but deals little damage with middling speed. There's just so many better options to use, it's really not worth it. C tier. And speaking of better options... Udis, G-Corp Head Manager. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Sloth, Gluttony, Gloom. Damage types, Blunt and Pierce. Gimmicks, Sinking, Defense Up, Attack Down. Boy, those are some good debuffs. Like, really, really good debuffs. She also has 4 to 8 speed range, making them actually usable by the rest of the team. Her passives also increase the speed of her allies and grant some crazy buffs, so they're really easy to use and they're very reliable. She also has really great clashes, but there's a problem. Every one of her skills has a single coin. If Udis flips a tails, consider her staggered. She will lose that clash, and she's not tanky enough to take a hit. She also doesn't deal much damage, but her passives and buffs make up for that. Solid A tier, honestly. Just make sure her sanity stays nice and high, because she is allergic to tails. Gregor, Lass. Rarity, 2 stars. Affinities, Wrath, Lust, Sloth. Damage types, Blunt. Gimmicks, Burn. Smoking is bad for your health, kids. Gregor has a lot of coins for his skills, but boy, they don't add much. His clash winds up being mediocre, and he really doesn't have that much damage. But oh boy, that is a lot of burn. Burn on his passives, burn on his skills, burning sensation when you pee, he's got it all. And that's about all he has. He's fun, but everything about averages out. I'll put him at B. Solid, but only really useful in burn teams. But now, we get to the fun part. Yi Sang, Blade Lineage Salsu. Rarity, 3 stars. Affinities, Pride, Wrath, Envy. Damage types, Slash. Gimmicks, Poise. I'm going to fucking crit you. Wow, our first 3-star ID. And it's a winner! Uptie 4 really helped this ID because it's incredibly consistent. It's a monster at clashing and the damage output is very solid. But more than that, it's the best poise identity in the game, and when it crits, it crits! You really need to rely on RNG, but the damage is good enough on its own that even if you're the unluckiest man alive, you'll still be reliably killing things. His only downside is that in order to stack poise, you'll need slightly longer fights, but it usually only takes about 2 turns to begin your crit rampage. S tier. He's just reliable. Don Quixote, W Corp Cleanup Agent. Rarity, 3 stars. Affinities, Sloth, Gloom, Envy. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Charge, Fragile, Rupture, and casually one-shotting bosses. This identity is the reason why 3-coin clashing skills are nicknamed Leap. This identity is also the reason why crazy powerful skills are nicknamed Rip Space. This identity is fucking bonkers! Every skill can clash reliably. Every skill obliterates health bars. And if the fight goes long enough to hit 10 charge, Rip Space turns boss is into boss wers. Solid speed and awesome passives just make it that much sweeter. This is our first double S tier ID, absolutely no questions asked. God, I love this gremlin. Ryoshu, Kurokumo Clan Wakashu. Rarity, 3 stars. Affinities, Gluttony, Pride, Lust. Damage types, Pierce. Gimmicks, Bleed, Paralyze, being the opposite of Hong Lu. Ryoshu loves stacking Bleed count, but can't actually apply that many stacks of Bleed. Her damage is relatively low overall, but gets boosted if the target has a certain number of Bleed count, so it works out. This ID is absolutely necessary for Bleed builds, as it's one of the only reliable ways to actually make the count rise. She's a pretty solid clasher too, and the paralysis on her skill 1 makes it even easier. Really solid passives are once again icing on the cake. A tier. She would go in S, but if you're not running a Bleed team, she's simply outclassed. Meursault, W Corp Cleanup Agent. Rarity, 3 stars. Affinities, Envy, Gloom, Pride. Damage types, Slash. Gimmicks, Charge, Rupture, Defense Down, the only bad WID. Yep, Meursault gets cucked again. He really struggles to generate the charge he needs to use his skill 3, and Defense Down got nerfed hard recently. He's alright at clashing, but really lacks any damage and has god-awful passives. B tier. Another quick ID for Meursault because they're just that bad. Someday you'll get a good ID, buddy. Hong Lu, Ting Tang Clan Gang Leader. Rarity, 3 stars. Affinities, Envy, Lust, Gluttony. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Bleed, Coin Reuse, make Mutilate go infinite, you cowards. Everything about this ID is fantastic. The only thing it's missing is affinities to support his egos. But other than that, it's almost perfect. Great clashing, absolutely absurd damage, SP healing, and great passives. But the best part is Mutilate. If Hong Lu kills a unit with his skill 3, it gets reused on another target, so you can potentially kill 2 units with a single skill. An utterly insane ability to have. It can only be reused a single time, but we can hope Project Moon changes this for Uptie 5. Please, PM, we want to go infinite. Anyway, he's still S tier. So close to double S, but still fantastic. Heathcliff. R-Corp 4th Pack Rabbit. Rarity 3 stars. Affinities Wrath, Gluttony, Envy. Damage types Pierce, and Jesus, there's a lot of it. Gimmicks Ammo, Bleed, Charge, Fragile, Haste, Rupture, insert big Chungus joke. Officer Hops Heathcliff is just as, if not more, famous than W. Don for just being insane on release. This ID does so much damage. Imagine if you could use Don's rip space without the 10 charge requirement. That's quick suppression. And not only does it deal an absurd amount of damage, it inflicts fragile and ruptures so the rest of your team can also deal absolutely absurd damage. Now, he does have a downside, but it's only one. His damage is severely limited if he runs out of ammo. Don't get me wrong, it's still decent, but when he runs out of gas, he's fucking out. The good news is that basically everything will be dead by the time that happens, so that works. Double S tier, and I don't think there's a single player out there that'll disagree with that. Ishmael. R-Corp 4th Pack Reindeer. Rarity 3 stars. Affinities Gloom, Envy, Wrath. Damage types Blunt. Gimmicks Charge, Sinking. Oops, I accidentally wiped the team. Another identity absolutely saved by Uptie 4. She was fine before, but really struggled to hold her charges, meaning that she couldn't ever use Mind Whip. If you don't know, Mind Whip randomly targets if you don't have enough charge, and it's really strong. So if you're an average Project Moon fan that can't read, this ability will frequently kill your allies. Luckily, with Uptie 4, she got completely fixed. She holds charge great, clashes super well, and deals a ton of damage. Mind Whip can still delete allies if you're not careful, but now it's actually usable. S tier. Just please stop killing my Heathcliff. Rodian. Kurikumo Clan Wakashu. Rarity 3 stars. Affinities Gloom, Lust, Pride. Damage types Slash. Gimmicks Bleed, Poise. Dude, that is a sick fucking sword. God, the Kurikumo are so cool. At Uptie 4, this identity goes pretty hard. Her skill 3 is a guaranteed crit if she has 6 poise or more, and if it crits, it inflicts 10 bleed, making her synergize crazy well with bleed teams. Her poise gain is also super consistent, so she has very reliable crits otherwise. She's really solid, but also outclassed by a lot of other identities and only truly shines in a really specific team comp. A tier, but she's really close to S. Sinclair, Blade Lineage Salsu. Rarity 3 stars. Affinities Gluttony, Wrath, Pride. Damage types Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks Bleed, Paralyze, Poise, having the coolest name for an ability. We fucking love bamboo-headed Kim. God, I wish this ID was good. It has one of the most satisfying animations in the game, with To Claim Their Bones just blowing people up and fantastic passives. Unfortunately, that's all he has.
That's it?
He can barely clash at all outside of skill 3, and even if he manages to win, his skills 1 and 2 barely deal any damage. B tier. He's usable, just don't bring him into mirror dungeons, you'll get your ass kicked. Gregor, G-Corp Manager Corporal. Rarity, 3 stars. Affinities, Gluttony, Sloth, Lust. Damage types, Slash and Pierce. Gimmicks, Rupture, being absolutely unkillable. It's our favorite buggy boy. This ID does a single thing: heal. Every single skill and passive heals, and holy fuck does it heal. He clashes super well, deals solid damage, and heals both himself and teammates for a ton throughout fights. He doesn't really have any synergy with mechanics or anything, but you can just slap him onto any team and add some survivability to it. I think overall he's probably an A tier identity, but I'm putting him in S because he's usable literally anywhere. Put him on any team with an empty slot and it'll instantly get a little bit better. Okay, and that's all 26 identities that were in the game at the release of Limbus Company. Jesus, that took a long time. The good news is that Season 1 only added another 10 identities, but I'll have my work cut out again for me in Season 2. I hope you all enjoyed, and maybe I helped you decide what you should uptie. It was a lot of fun to go back and experiment with some of these old IDs, because I didn't use a lot of them when they came out. Some of them were shockingly better than I expected. This video took a long time, so please go ahead and subscribe if I helped you out. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget that I am objectively correct in all my rankings and my tier list is perfect. I'll see you soon.